Look at that blade standing up above the rest of your lawn. You mowed 2 days ago, everything was even, and now there's a patch of bright pale green grass shooting up taller than everything around it, almost like it's waving at you. That's nutsedge. And if you've been pulling it or spraying it with the weed killer from the garage, and it keeps coming back thicker than before, you're not doing anything wrong. You just haven't been told the one thing that actually matters about this weed. Because nutsedge isn't beaten the way other weeds are. And if you don't understand why, you'll fight it every summer for the rest of the time you own this yard. So before I give you a single method, I need you to understand the enemy. Once you do, everything about how you handle it changes. Here's the first thing. Nutsedge isn't actually a grass, even though it looks like one. It's a sedge, and you can prove it to yourself in about 3 seconds. Roll a blade between your fingers and you'll feel that the stem is triangular, 3 distinct edges, instead of round or flat. There's an old saying that sedges have edges, and that's the whole test. This matters because nutsedge, being a sedge and not a grass, is exactly why most weed killers don't touch it. The products people reach for are built for broadleaf weeds or for grasses. Nutsedge is neither, so it shrugs them right off and you're left thinking nothing works. But the real reason nutsedge beats people is underground, and this is the part almost nobody explains. When you look at that plant on the surface, you're looking at maybe 5% of it. Down in the soil, nutsedge grows a network of roots, and along those roots, it forms little round tubers about the size of a small bead. Old-timers call them nutlets, and that's where the name comes from. Each one of those tubers is a fully loaded plant waiting to sprout. A single nutsedge plant can put dozens, sometimes hundreds of these tubers into your soil in one season. And they can sit down there for years, waiting. So here's what happens when you pull nutsedge, and why it feels like you're losing. You grab the plant, you tug, and the top comes away in your hand. It feels good, it looks clean. But the tubers stay behind in the soil, completely undisturbed, and pulling the top actually signals them to wake up. Where you pulled one plant, 3 or 4 sprout from the tubers you left behind. You didn't remove the weed, you multiplied it. I've watched people pull nutsedge faithfully all summer and end up with twice as much as they started with, and every one of them assumed they just weren't pulling hard enough. So the question was never, how do I pull this weed? The question is, how do I deal with the tubers I can't see? And once you're asking that question, you're finally fighting the right battle. Let me walk you through what actually works, because there's real hope here. It just isn't the hope you expected. If you only have a few plants, hand pulling can still work, but only if you completely change how you do it. You don't yank the top. You take a hand trowel or a narrow shovel and you dig down a good 6 to 8 inches, wider than you think you need to, and you lift the whole plant out with the soil around it, tubers and all. You're not weeding at that point, you're excavating, and you do it when the plant is young, before it's had the chance to grow that season's new tubers, which usually means catching it early in the summer. Get a nutsedge plant out whole before it's built its underground network, and that one's genuinely gone. But once nutsedge has spread into a real patch, digging becomes hopeless, because you can't possibly find every tuber, and missing even a few just restarts the whole thing. That's when you need the tool that's actually built for this. There's a category of herbicide made specifically for sedges, with active ingredients that target the way a sedge grows. The 2 names to look for on the label are halosulfuron and sulfentrazone. Those are the ones that work, because instead of just burning off the top, they move down into the plant and reach the tubers, which is the only way you ever get ahead of it. When you're standing in the aisle, flip the bottle over and look for one of those 2 words. If it just says weed and grass killer, and neither of those is on it, put it back, because it won't do the job no matter how much you spray. And whatever product you use, read the label before you mix a drop. It tells you exactly how much to use, how much area it covers, and what to wear while you apply it. Those numbers are there to protect your lawn and to protect you and your pets. Nutsedge tempts people into overdoing it out of pure frustration, and overdoing it is how you damage the good grass you're trying to save. Now here's the part that actually ends the cycle, the same way it does with every weed. Nutsedge is telling you something about your yard, and if you don't listen, it'll keep coming back even after you've killed what's there. Nutsedge loves wet ground. It thrives where water sits, where drainage is poor, where a sprinkler runs too long, or a low spot stays soggy after every rain. If you have a patch of nutsedge that comes back in the exact same place year after year, that spot is almost certainly staying too wet, and the nutsedge is just the messenger. Fix the drainage, water your lawn less often and more deeply, and let that ground dry out between waterings, and you take away the one thing nutsedge needs most. A dry, thick, healthy lawn is the single best defence there is, because nutsedge struggles to establish where the good grass is already strong and the soil isn't holding water. So here's the whole picture. Nutsedge isn't a grass, which is why your weed killer failed. It grows from tubers, underground, which is why pulling it made it worse. You beat it by digging young plants out whole, or by using a herbicide actually made for sedges that can reach those tubers, and then you keep it gone by drying out the ground it loves. Kill what's growing, reach what's hiding, and fix what invited it. Do all three, and you're not just clearing nutsedge for this summer, you're finally breaking the cycle instead of feeding it. If you've got a nutsedge story of your own, or a trick that worked in your yard, tell me down in the comments. This is one weed where everybody's got a battle to share.